The presidential landslides of 1972 and 1984 were the biggest landslides in modern GOP history, being won by two very popular U.S. presidents. Richard Nixon was president in 1972 and ran for re-election against the Democratic nominee George McGovern. McGovern was extremely liberal and ran a disastrous campaign. Although he set a record in his home state of South Dakota, it was Massachusetts, which ended up being the only state he could carry. Massachusetts went for McGovern with a margin of 9 points, carrying the state's 14 electoral votes, and of course the District of Columbia. In 1984, Ronald Reagan was also in the same boat and was running for re-election against the former Vice President Walter Mondale. Despite nominating the very first female running mate, Mondale lacked the momentum to bring voters to the polls. Most Americans were not a fan of his plan of raising taxes in what he called Mondanomics. Although he performed better than McGovern back in 1972, state-wise, Mondale barely had a grip on anything. He almost lost his state of Minnesota and only won it by 0.18% of the popular vote. If he hadn't won Minnesota, Reagan would become the very first president to carry all 50 states. The elections were a part of the GOP's golden age in the late 20th century, but that golden age would end with the rise of Bill Clinton in the 90s, who built up the Democrats' abilities to win elections up to the 21st century, where our society remains much divided.